Estamos en Punto Medio. El día de hoy vamos a hablar sobre la importancia de los trabajadores migrantes y de una industria clave para la economía canadiense. Nos acompaña nuestro invitado del día de hoy, que es vicepresidente de una, o más bien la asociación más importante de restaurantes en Canadá, Restaurant Canada, y le quiero dar la bienvenida a nuestro invitado, el vicepresidente James Rilett.
Welcome. Hey, thanks. Great introduction. Let's just jump right into this. We had a show the last time, and we talked about the migrant worker program in Canada. And really, the migrant worker program had ostensibly been around for many, many years, since the 70s. And we'll get into that when I introduce James more appropriately. But ideally, it was just for the agricultural sector.
That's correct.
And we had Diputado Alejandro Robles on our show from Mexico to talk about the aspirations for growing that program to other industries. And we've talked about healthcare, we've talked about mining, general labor, agriculture as well. But most importantly, one of the things we have been talking about is the restaurants industry, particularly the hospitality and restaurants industry. For our viewers, one of the things that we did have a very interesting meeting here in Toronto. Our guest, James Rilett, was at that, and I got a phone call from James, and he said, look, we're very interested to talk to Mexico about more of this. So I think it's really incumbent on us through Punto Medio and Genesis 360 TV to talk about this. And so I'm really delighted, James, that you are joining us today. We're very, very fortunate to have James Rilett. Not only is he a good friend of mine, but he's a great political colleague as well. James, you're the Vice President of Restaurants Canada.
Yes, so I represent restaurants all across the country.
Tell us a bit about Restaurants Canada, and then I want to jump in about you.
Okay, well, Restaurants Canada, we have about 40,000 members across the country. We represent restaurants from the smallest of the small to the largest of the largest chains, quick service, fast food, all the way to the finest dining that you can have in Canada. So we represent everyone. More than that, we represent the people that work in the industry. There's over 1 million people that work in the food service industry. It's amazing how big it is, and people don't even think about how much it is, but more than that, it's the effect it has on every single community, and every single person in Canada is affected by our restaurant.
So when you talk about every community, I mean, every community we know, there are 274 cities in this country, that every one of those cities has a restaurant in it that you could think of.
That's right. Every little town, every small four-way corner, you'll find a restaurant somewhere, whether it just is a coffee shop or a small diner or somewhere for weary people to stop on the road. There's restaurants everywhere, and it's an important part of our culture.
And Guillermo and I were talking before the show about the economic impact of restaurants, and just what's the number in terms of how much it contributes to the economy.
Well, we represent about 6.4% of the GDP of Canada, which it's a big number. That's bigger than the auto industry. That's bigger than a lot of industries. People are always surprised at how large the restaurant industry is, and it's part of the hospitality industry, and it affects everything. It affects tourism. It affects people being able to get to work, and it is part of our economy.
James, as an important part of the economy, could you be so kind to share with us how was the impact of the COVID-19 situation, the COVID-19 term for the industry, and also how the industry faced that challenge?
It was I couldn't describe how much it hurt our industry. Overall, our industry was affected about 40%. It was down about 40%. But there were some parts of the industry, like bars and were down by 90%. There was table service restaurants were down by 75 to 80%. That's money you're never going to get back. It's not like retail where, okay, I didn't buy shoes this year, but I'll buy them next year. It's missed meals are never coming back. So that's money they didn't get. But more than that, it's people that didn't get to work. It's people that didn't earn a paycheck, and it's going to affect a lot of people for a long time.
So, but as a counter to that, I mean, everybody knows that the restaurant industry, they're not. It's not a long-term aspiration for a lot of people that want to get into that, right? So, restaurants open and close quite quickly. Is that right?
Well, I would counter that. I think there are examples of people who think they know the industry. Everybody thinks they know how to cook and thinks they can run a restaurant, and that's where you see the turnover. But I was talking at the height of pandemic, talking to people who'd been in the industry 35, 40 years. One restaurant had been open for 3 generations in almost 70 years, and they had to close because they just didn't have the backstop to keep going. That was heartbreaking. And so yes, there are. If you look down the street, you always see a restaurant that's closing and then reopening. But that's usually just people that think they know the industry but don't know it as well as they think they do.
So a question so how Guillermo asked the question about COVID-19 and the pandemic. So your industry was decimated. We saw that. What kind of things did you do so that restaurants wouldn't suffer 100% failure?
Well, most restaurants turned to takeout and delivery. That was a big thing. Almost everybody I talked to that had to go to takeout and delivery weren't making any money, but it was a way to keep track of their customers. It was a way to get people employed again. It was a way just to keep their restaurant viable. So they definitely weren't making money, but takeout and delivery did enable them to save some of their jobs and pay some bills. The other thing that helped us through, to be perfectly honest, the federal government really came through to help us pay our rent and make sure that when this was all over, when we were able to reopen, we actually had a place to reopen, and that we hadn't got kicked out by the landlord.
And those were the programs like CERB and other things that the federal government provided?
Yeah, CEBA and stuff like that. So they did step up, and even CERB, which was money that went to people. Our employees took advantage of that because they didn't have work, and it enabled them to stay whole and not go bankrupt, to pay their own personal bills and not have to worry that they didn't have a job to go to. So it did help, and we thank the federal government for stepping up in that way.
You used the phrase "keep the people working." I think it was a key element for the industry and also for all the society. Could you tell us which would be the outcome after the pandemic situation, how the industry has been dealing with manpower and also with employees?
Yeah, manpower is the biggest problem we face right now. And it wasn't new. Pre-pandemic, we had a bit of a problem. We had about 60,000 people we needed to bring into the industry.
How much? Sorry?
About 60,000 positions we needed to bring in. But post-pandemic, what we found was a lot of people who had gone for 2 years without a job just found something else to do and didn't come back to the industry. So currently, we need about 210,000 people in our industry.
210,000?
Yeah, so that's about 20% of our usual workforce. We have 1.2 million people in our industry at any given time. So 210,000 people, that's a lot of positions that are gone vacant right now, and it's hurting our industry.
This is across Canada?
This is across Canada, yes.
So when we look at so this could, like we talked about every city in Canada having an impact because restaurants are there. Are you telling us that in every city there's a 20% reduction in the manpower for restaurants?
Yeah, it's almost across the board. Every small town, every rural area, even downtown Toronto, it's all experiencing it. It's similar. They're getting the similar problems. The people that worked in the industry aren't coming back, and the youth and others that used to come in and fill the positions just aren't working as they used to.
And just before you do it, help us understand, because Guillermo and I were talking about this too before the show. You have 1.2 million workers in this industry. You need 210,000. What does that do in terms of the impact on the hours of operation for restaurants?
It means people have to be closed. What we're seeing is people are closing early. They're skipping shifts. They're doing things like closing for an entire day where, on a Wednesday they won't be open, just so that they can take those shifts of those people that would normally work the Wednesday and spread them out through the week. So what we estimate is industry's operating at about 80% efficiency right now. So 20% of the time we could be open, we just aren't.
In order to put in a proper perspective, Canada is a country that we have 39 million people, is that right?
That's right.
So, and it means that it's a shortage of more than 2,000 positions so far in the industry. So it means that the industry is not able to work in full capacity. How you would be able to find this manpower? How you would be able to find these employees?
I wish I knew the answer to that.
There's a lot of ball question for
you. We're turning over every rock trying to find the solution. We're looking at the traditional things of reaching out to people that are underemployed, but also we're looking to the immigration route even more. We're looking at temporary foreign workers. We're looking to bring in people similar to the agricultural programs that want to come, they want to work, they want to fill a position, and it helps both them and us. And it keeps us open. It provides jobs for those that want them, and it adds to our economy. It's a win-win-win for everyone, and many of those people find that they like it here and want to stay, and it helps our community. I think what we've seen is a lot of things like people will come and to work in a restaurant, and then they decide, I want to run a restaurant, and they buy a restaurant, they stay here, they add to the fabric of Canada, and everything about having people come and work in our industry is good things.
So correct me if I'm wrong, so what you are saying or you're suggesting is that there are those positions, but so far the Canadian society is not willing to work in this industry so far?
I don't know why they're not working,
Okay.
but a lot of the people that would normally come into our industry left the industry and just didn't come back. Whether they found different jobs or they decided to go a different path, I don't know. But basically, we can't find people to fill those positions, so we need to look elsewhere.
You mentioned about the different avenues that you have explored in order to bring people to work in restaurants. Could you give us some examples about those avenues?
Yeah, for sure. We're looking at the temporary foreign workers program that used to be a fairly good thing that helped us fill some positions, skilled positions, chefs, line cooks, things like that. But we're increasingly looking to replace those replace that program and expand it.
Okay.
We're looking at things like student visas, people working on student visas, increasing the amount of time that they are able to work. Currently it's 20 hours. Even if you add 5 more hours, that shouldn't affect their the time they spend as a student, but it does give us 20% more of their time to work in the restaurant or whatever, and help them pay for their education. So again, it's a win-win, things like that.
So mainly you have been focused in order to work with international talent, is that right? So I mean people who were not born here in Canada, and at the end of the day they would be willing to work here in Canada.
It's one of the things we're looking at.
Okay.
We're also looking at people that are currently in Canada but didn't normally work in our industry, Indigenous people that hadn't seen it as a possibility, people that had left the workforce and want to come back, people that maybe are retired but want to work a few hours a week. We're looking at everything, but the place where we think we can get the most employees at the quickest point of time is bringing them in from elsewhere, people that want to work.
Which is an interesting point, and I think something you said at the outset too, James, and I think we need to really explore that. I think governments have to be a lot different in their thinking. I'm not talking about legislative wise. I'm thinking at the bureaucracy level where we have to think we got to fast track programs or even think of new ways to get people here as quickly as we can. I'll preface my comments by saying this. If we look at even both healthcare and the hospitality sector, we need something in the neighborhood of 175,000 personal support workers. We've got an aging population. So people are saying, I'm going to stay at home. The only way for me to stay at home is to have somebody to come to my home, personal support workers or healthcare workers in your home. That's one area. You're talking about the restaurant industry. 20% is really a huge impact if it's 6.4% of the GDP. We got to really look at how we think differently as government. So my question to you is, are you prepared as Restaurants Canada to go down that path to say, look, we have to appeal to you as government differently? Like we're seeing, and we've talked about this in shows previous too, that governments a lot of times, both at the provincial, the federal, and even at other governments in other jurisdictions, just are not reacting to these kinds of issues as fast as industries like yours would want.
It's exactly right. That's exactly right. We need the governments to look at and not say, you're not allowed to do this. Say, yes, you're not allowed to do this, but this is how we can do it differently. Or you're not allowed to do this, but we don't know why it was, so we'll get rid of it. One example I was brought up recently to me is there is a program that has worked well, but you have to, if you're coming in from another country, you have to have $10,000 in the bank to come so that they know that you'll have the ability to leave. Well, a lot of people that might want to do that might not have that money. So is there a way that we can do the same thing and backstop and say, yes, we'll make sure that this person is whole and we'll be able to get back and whatever, another way,
right,
so that they don't have to personally save up that money and then try and come. We can figure out a way to accomplish the same goals, but be understanding of someone who wants the job but might not have that cash on.
Right.
Which would be in the position of your organization, James, which would be the actions or the proposals that you would like to share with our viewers today about which would be one or two possible avenues in order to achieve this goal that is fulfilling those positions?
Well, one thing we had talked to the representatives of Mexico about was something similar to the agricultural program, and can we get a hospitality program where we have people that strictly want to work specifically in this industry? Can we fast track them? How can we make agreements between Mexico, Canada, and whatever province, and Restaurants Canada if it has to? If we have to step up and invest the people and resources to make this happen, we are willing to do that as well. What needs to be done to create a program like that so we can have a pipeline directly from wherever, directly into Canada, and in this case from Mexico directly into Canada, and get those people to jobs that they want and that they can earn good money for quickly.
Maybe I'm biased, but I have to ask you this. Why Mexico?
Mainly because I met Mr. Robles at a event, and he expressed his desire to help Canada with their problems, and I thought I jumped on that chance to accept his offer of assistance, and that's grown from there.
But before I want to jump on that, because I think that's a great comment, and we're both aware, Guillermo and I, about the conversations you've had with Diputado Robles from Mexico. We do know, and we've spoken to him in the past, and you've spoken to him. He's prepared to introduce legislation in Mexico to look at a workers program, for a migrant workers program, particularly for Latin America, not just Mexico, because you've got so many people coming from all over Latin America into Mexico. There's an opportunity under the Canada-U.S.-Mexico agreement to look at how things could move across border. And Diputado Robles is really looking at a relationship, particularly with Restaurants Canada, to sort of change the mindset around the government here in Canada and the government in Mexico about a program, right? I think, and you said, why Mexico? I'm going to tell you. I mean, look at Cancun. 60% of the world knows Cancun. So anybody who's in the hospitality sector is going to be very well trained in Cancun, and they could be deployable into Canada, which I think would solve a problem here. Same thing with places like Los Cabos and other destination points in Mexico, where there are a lot of very well trained hospitality people who could be deployed here to Canada. The fact that you and Diputado Robles are having that discussion, I think is something that we need to create awareness, or we are, Guillermo and I are going to create awareness through this show, but in other areas too, between Mexico and Canada, so that could prompt some kind of a different thinking for politicians and for government in this country.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better, Marc. As always, you put it exactly succinctly. We appreciate Diputado Robles' efforts, and if we need to push for similar legislation in Canada to make that work, we will do it. I think Canada, especially the area we're in right now, the GTA, Greater Toronto Area, is very accepting of people from other countries and welcomes them and it makes them part of the community. And we think that's a selling point, and we want to take advantage of that and every opportunity that Mexico and Latin America, wherever it's from, that they can help us with our problems, and hopefully we can help them to whatever goals that they're looking to.
I have a question for you, James, just between you and I, Marc, and our viewers.
Don't tell anyone.
So which would be the most frustrating situation, or the most frustration challenge that you're facing nowadays in order to fulfill positions in your industry?
Well, the most frustrating thing, two things, I'll say. One is just we're not finding anybody that want to fill those positions. And secondly, on the government level, is the position of some government officials of, well, we don't do it that way. I understand you don't do it that way, but you don't have to not do it that way.
Yeah.
And is there different ways to do it? And to be perfectly honest, there have been problems in the past. Hopefully we've moved past those, and if we need to address that, and if we need to find ways to make sure that those problems don't reoccur, let's talk about that. But don't simply say no, because that's how you've always done it, and that's what we want to.
So we have an opportunity now through Diputado Robles to lead because he's already said to you, from what I understand, and I'm telling this is a secret, that he's already said to you, look, I'm prepared to put the full weight of the Mexico government into this, and he's talked about maybe having a discussion with the Secretario de Trabajo in Mexico. And he and the Secretary are having some discussions around this. They want to go down a path with you to look at how we could deploy Mexican workers here into Canada to fast track that. Is there a message you wanted to deliver to Mexico, but then I guess to Mexican workers? How easy can we make it for them to want to come here?
But before we go there, I would like to ask you something.
Okay.
So which would be the steps, or what would be willing to do Restaurant Canada in order to make this happen? I mean, is the organization willing to provide, for instance, training, maybe exchanging some kind of information? Is something that you have discussed about that?
Yeah, well, we've basically said whatever we need to do, we'll find a way to do. We don't know everything we need to do yet. There are a lot of places that prefer to train themselves, that they don't want somebody pre-trained because they do things a certain way.
Sure.
A lot of chains are like that. A lot of individual restaurants are like, just give me someone and I will get them trained. But if it's training that we need, we work with a lot of the colleges across the country, a lot of the culinary colleges. We can find ways to help do that training. If it's matchmaking, if it's somebody we identify who needs 5 jobs, and if we find 5 people and put them in those 5 jobs, that's what we'll do. I don't know everything that we need to do at this point, but what we've said to Diputado Robles and to our government, that whatever it is, we'll find a way to do it.
So I'm delighted that you're here, James, and you talked a bit about you and your role at Restaurants Canada. Tell us a bit. Our viewers would probably like to know, how long have you been at Restaurants Canada, and where did you come from before?
Okay, I've been at Restaurants Canada for 9 years, and it's been a great 9 years. I love the industry, and I've been fortunate to work in it. But my background actually is in politics. I was at Queen's Park, which is the Ontario government, for 17 years. I worked for Premier McGuinty back in the 2000s, and was really fortunate to get a lot of experience there. I worked in the Ministry of Revenue, the Ministry of Transportation, and had some great times helping people through those jobs.
I would assume that because you've had all that experience politically and working for not only the Premier and other cabinet ministers and politicians, that you understand public policy very well.
I believe I do.
No, the reason I ask is I think given the significance of this issue, it's going to take an awful lot of deft handling of issues like public policy. So
yeah, one thing I found from that experience is dealing with bureaucrats, dealing with the public services. They see themselves as permanent structures of the government, and political people as just temporary. So it's a way, you have to talk to them in a certain way. You have to figure out where they're coming from, figure out how to overcome their prejudices and whatever they've experienced over the years, and say, well, let's try and do things different and achieve the same goals but a different way.
Right. Well, this is going to be an issue, I think, where every ounce of understanding you have of dealing with bureaucrats, public sector, and politicians is going to come to bear. So I'm really grateful to Restaurants Canada for putting you in the role you're in, and we're grateful for having you here.
I have a question for you, James. So you're representing all the restaurants all over the country. So our viewers are mainly from Mexico and Latin America. I would like to ask you, which could be the relationships between Restaurant Canada and maybe Mexico and the other countries of our great continent?
Well, over the years we've had a great relationship with Mexico. We have a trade show every year. It's called the Restaurants Canada Show. Imagine that. It makes sense.
Could you tell us how often it happens?
So every year, about 30,000 people come to Toronto and see what's new in the restaurant industry. And for a long time, until recently, Mexico had almost a pavilion, and a large part of our show floor was represented by Mexico. And the tourism board and the economic development provided products from Mexico, sauces, agriculture products such as avocados, etc.
Mezcal.
Tequilas,
Good.
Mezcal, and other spirits. It was always one of our most popular booths because restaurant owners across Canada, but especially when they come to the show, they want to see something new, they want to see something fresh. And that was what Mexico was always able to offer, is to say, these are new products in our country, and we're more than willing to ship them to you at any time. They were great relationships, and I think it provided provided our restaurants with products that they needed, but it also provided them with some variety of things that they may never have used if they didn't.
If you're so kind to share with our viewers when is happening this show?
The show usually happens in the spring. I think it's now we've moved it to the end of March. So every year it's near the end of March, and it's here in Toronto.
So it means that if people who are in Latin America and they have a good product and they would like to bring to the Canadian industry, the restaurant industry, you would be the proper conduit to do it.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone has products, if they produce things that they want to sell into Canada, it's a great opportunity. It's a great segue into the people that buy products for restaurants, and so it's a great opportunity. Just get a hold of us at restaurantshow.com, and they'll be able to tell you how you can participate in the show.
And I assume that because of the pandemic, this has been sort of put on hold for a while, right?
We had it virtually for 2 years, which
that's not going to do much for it.
kind of helped, but
Yeah.
it didn't really, because the benefit of the show and the excitement of the show is tasting things. Like, you never come to the show, you always come with an empty stomach because you're going to eat your way through the show. It's tastings, it's different new products, new opportunities, and we also have a bar and beverage pavilion, so you'll get to have your tastings of the new spirit products as well.
So if I understand you correctly, you said you get somewhere around 40,000 delegates to this?
All in all, including delegates, we get about 20,000 individuals that buy tickets, but then we also have about 10 to 15,000 people who are participating in the show come as well.
So one of the things you got to do, Guillermo, is get Mexico back to this show, because I want some tequila.
Absolutely, we will do it. And actually, I would like to invite you, James. We are part of Mexico-Can Alliance of Commerce. It's a non-for-profit organization devoted to help businesses along and between both countries. And it would be great in order to start working together if it's possible. I'm pretty sure that people from Mexico and Latin America, they would be able to, and they should take advantage of the work that you are doing. And if we could assist in that, it would be our pleasure.
That would be great. I would look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that we reached Punto Medio today. Muchas gracias.
Thank you.